wide open. Most of us live like we're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Wide open and free. You know, I had a friend that called this week. I think that's why I brought that up in me. A friend called this week and said to me she's had 3 tragedies happen in her life, one right after the other. You know how it is, they always say bad things happen in threes. And she just didn't know how much she could handle anymore. And she talked about it to a well-meaning relative who gave her the typical answer, oh, God doesn't give you any more than you can handle. Oh, don't you just want to hit people like that? You know, first of all, God doesn't give you anything. You know, we live in this earth plane where we draw it to us, and collectively we're on this earth plane of duality where stuff happens. Even here at Unity, we have, you know, one of our friends made her transition. We have another one who's homebound, another one in assisted living. You know, things happen on this earth plane. And that's why I said in meditation, we're on a hero's journey just by being here on the earth, facing challenges, trying to survive, not just survive, but to thrive, to find the joy in the midst of it. The hero's journey has its ups and downs. That's why it's called the hero's journey. But in Unity, we have tools, we have spiritual principles, don't we, that help us on that spiritual path. So I want you to imagine for a minute that you would be taken and set down plop anywhere. Anywhere in the world, you would just be set down with nothing but your awareness that you're one with God. Heck, let's take it even further. You'd be plopped down anywhere in the galaxy. Just like, remember the old book, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Did anybody read that or see the movie? It was a great book because in the beginning of the book, right away, the first chapter, page 1, the world is coming to an end, and in big, bold letters it says, don't panic. I love it. If that was the one spiritual message we could take away, yeah, maybe the world is coming to an end, but don't panic. The other thing, for those of you who are, you know, the sort of a cult following of those who have read the book, and that the secret of life is in the book. You want me to tell it to you? Nobody's listening, right? Number 42, I believe it is, the secret of, it makes no sense at all, but that's life. Did I get the number right? Was it 42? It's close enough, right? The fundamentalists actually said the world was going to end yesterday. I don't know if you read that. Somebody did a numerology study of the Bible, and according to the Bible, the world was supposed to end yesterday. I'm still here. I don't know where the rest of you are, but I'm still here. I'm getting ready to go, but that's a whole other story. Well, the first key to me in that toolkit that we have, the first key to survival of anything is to know wherever you are, God is, right? Wherever I am, God is. What's there to be afraid of? No matter what happens, no matter where I get plopped down, if I'm one with God, you know, that's all I need to know. Or as the Old Testament says, the very place I stand is holy ground. Oh, I love that. I get goosebumps saying that. Let's say it together. The very place I stand is holy ground. Oh, doesn't that give you goosebumps? Wow. The Father and I are one, however you want to say it. And if you could repeat another affirmation with you, knowing that, united with God, all is provided. Together, united with God, all is provided. You know, I love the Buddhist monks that go around with their begging bowl, just to practice that trust that all will be provided, no matter what. Well, real life on this plane of duality has loss and betrayal, and that's often part of the spiritual path. It doesn't have to be, but it's part of the spiritual path, and it's great training coming to this plane of duality. It's such great training because it forces us to trust in God. What else are we going to trust in this crazy world but God? It forces us into that trust. You know, back in 1990, I think it was, I read a book, it was really controversial, called Mutant Message Down Under, the story about the Australian lady. And she said it was a true story. It actually happened to her. Later it came out that it wasn't really a factual story. It didn't really happen to her. But it's such a beautiful journey of how we can just trust every day. In the story, she was taken by the Aborigines, and they buried all her stuff, her purse, her credit cards, her watch, probably her chocolate, God help her. And they took her away for a month or so. I don't remember exactly how long. It's been so long since I read the book. But, the whole tribe would take turns every day. Someone else was the leader. And they would be guided where to go each day. They would be guided where to sleep and what to eat every day. And that was the whole premise of the book, is that we should all just totally trust in every moment. Well, even though her story turned out to not be factual, it was still a wonderful story about the hero's journey on the earth. We've been put here, and as the bumper sticker says a little differently, but stuff happens, right, on this earth plane. And on our journey, we're just here to survive, to thrive, and to feel the joy. So rule number 1 is what? Don't panic. Remember that one. It's going to come up again. The second one is trust. Trust. And the third one is follow divine guidance. That's all we need in our toolkit. Don't panic, trust, and follow divine guidance. Well, I was trying to think of what to talk about today, and Michael volunteered to let me tell his story of part of his spiritual journey. He and I have both had quite a life and have had times where we've lost everything and had to start over again. And it's a great way to force you to trust God, and it has strengthened our faith. It's like the country western song. We've all had times when we lost our spouse, our house, our dog, and our job, all at once. And so he said I could use his story today. And it starts with the first thing Michael lost, like many other people at that time. He lost his 401k. Anybody here has that experience?
Yes.
Many people have that happen. And fortunately, Michael was a unity person, and he knew perception was everything, how he chose to approach that. So we had some initial anger and grief to get rid of. We don't want to stuff that in. As the Course in Miracles said, we all at times feel denied, deprived, persecuted, and abused. Don't we all feel that way? And you just got to let it out and then go on. So he was able to release it and go on. Okay, I'm letting this go and go on. So the first key is what? Don't panic. Wherever you are, God is. Why should we panic if we are one with God? The second key, know when to let go. Know when to let go. That's such a big one. There are people that actually believe when things happen, you're supposed to get upset. I think that it's like a default. I'm supposed to get upset. Look at what's happening. And if you don't get upset with them, they look at you and say, why aren't you upset? Don't you see what's happening? Anybody have friends that tell you that? What are you, crazy? Look what's going on. What's wrong with you? Pain is part of the dualistic experience. Suffering is optional. Suffering is optional. So back to Michael's story. The next 2 losses happened at the same time. He's always worked in electronics, being very good at that. The business that he was working at dropped, and his income dropped almost in half. And about that same time was the housing market crash, and so he was about to lose his house at the same time. He said it felt like his life was cascading. It felt like everything around him was collapsing, along with his self-esteem and self-worth. He said he had to think about he wasn't living up to the image of who he thought he should be. He was his father's son, and his father was like a local hero. Everybody called him Doc, and he was a local hero in the community where he grew up. Michael had to relearn who he was and what reality was all about, what this life was all about, and who he was to be in this life. He had to completely change how he looked at himself. So key number 3, as we're on the hero's journey, is when this stuff comes up, it's to heal your issues. It's to heal you, not to punish you. To heal those issues of self-worth. To force you into finding out who you really are and what really matters. That's what happens. Then there's key number 4, the most important one. Listen and feel that inner divine prompting for guidance, where to go, what to do. So important. Listen to that inner guidance. Will always tell you what to do. And Michael was no different. You all know he channels, he hears the divine all the time. And the voice kept saying, let it all go and trust. Let it all go and trust. And Michael said, okay, I'll let go, but first let me try this. You know? And he tried everything. He got a second job. He was working day and night. He tried refinancing. That didn't work. He tried selling things. You can only sell so much. Nothing was working. The voice kept telling him, let it all go and trust. And Michael kept saying, yeah, right. Finally, help came in the form of one of Tulsa's famous ice storms. Anybody ever been in an ice storm? You know, they're worse than a snowstorm. And they break the trees, and what happened, not only was he losing his house, but this big branch fell on the roof. And he's out there in the ice, freezing, trying to saw this branch off of his roof, and it was heavy and it was hard, and he couldn't saw through it, and it was starting to hurt in his shoulders and his arms, and the pain got worse and worse until he said it forced him to surrender. Now the way Michael surrendered is he said, oh, the hell with it. We all surrendered in different ways and with different words. With Michael it was, oh, the hell with it. Whatever works for you, it forced him to surrender. And after that, he was able to follow the divine guidance for what to do. First of all, he quit his low-paying job. It wasn't making enough to cover everything anyway, so he quit the job. And it took him a while to find another job. He tried one or two other ones. But Tulsa's also famous for air and space businesses and electronics, and he got a job at L3 working on flight simulators for a lot better salary. It was a much better job. So you see how if you let go and follow the guidance, you're lifted up. The second thing is he let go of his house and found another place to live. It wasn't maybe a place he would have chosen, but it was the first step. It was temporary, and eventually that got better too. The third thing that happened was over a year later when he and I hooked up and decided to get married. The rest is history. Michael was able to follow then his real calling, not electronics, but spiritual work. Although he does help with the sound system every Sunday, he's still in electronics to a certain degree. But the point of the whole thing is our hero's journey on the earth plane. We could all tell our story. Everybody in here has a similar story. Different details, different kinds of challenges to go through. Rule number one is what? Don't panic. Number two, let go. Especially let go of the struggle and the fear. And then heal those issues that come up. Gosh, we all have issues when that stuff comes up. Heal them. Find self-love. Find out who you really are. And the fourth one is trust the guidance that's there before you. That guidance is always there. And people will say to me, well, I'm in a stuck place and I'm receiving no guidance. Well, I always say if you haven't gotten any guidance, then it means it's not time yet. It means stay where you are, do what you're doing. When it's time, the guidance will come. And sometimes that takes patience, doesn't it? When the guidance doesn't seem to be there right away. I love the woman who channeled the Course in Miracles, Helen. She kept asking Jesus for a 5-year plan on what to do with the Course in Miracles. Isn't that typical? Jesus, what's your 5-year plan? Anyone answer her? And finally one day out of frustration, Jesus said to her, it's on a need-to-know basis. You know? And don't you just wish you had a blueprint of where your life was going, you know, where I'm going to be in 5 years, what I'm going to do in 10 years? Gosh, we probably wouldn't show up if we saw it. It's on a need-to-know basis. And there was a wonderful article in the last Course in Miracles magazine that I get by Jacob Glass. He said the fear in culture right now is almost exclusively based on worrying about what's going to happen in the future. And he called it body identification worry. We all have body identification worry. And if we could just let go of that and look at our soul identification and receive the guidance for our soul, which never quite looks the same on the earth plane, I know I've always had that guidance. Every time I've moved, I've lost everything, or, moved to a different church or a different home or whatever, I've always known as soon as I arrived. Always. And I've known when it wasn't the right home or church. I remember one church I applied for at one time. Probably the only church I ever went for a tryout and didn't take. I got there and it was a wonderful church. There was nothing wrong with the church. It's just that it wasn't mine. I arrived and I felt anxious from the moment I got there. And everything that could possibly go wrong did. I was just a mess the whole time. I was flippant during the interview. I know you can't imagine me being flippant. And, it was crazy. I couldn't wait to get out of there. That was my inner feeling saying, this is not your church. Now, the very next weekend that was before I went to Tulsa. The very next weekend I went to Tulsa. I was so relaxed. Everything flowed. It was just everything. I knew it was my church immediately. And it's been that way when I bought houses. As soon as I walk in, oh, this is my house. I don't even have to see it all. I know immediately. That's trusting that inner guidance system that is always there for us, always there for us. We have two realities that exist interdimensionally together at all times. And we choose in every moment which one to live in, which one to experience our life in. And when our world is pulled apart, it's pulled apart so that we shift into that higher existence. The two realities are the kingdom of the human ego and the kingdom of heaven. And they exist side by side. The kingdom of the human ego is all about separation and fear, controlling, manipulating, trying to fix everything out there. It's tense, it's anxious, it feels vulnerable, it goes into attack and defend. It's all powered by the ego. And then there's the kingdom of heaven, which Jesus said is right here. We just don't see it because we're so busy trying to fix it. The kingdom of heaven is all about oneness and peace and love and being in the flow of spirit. It's relaxed, it's easy, it's grace-filled. You feel safe because you know your union with God, and it's powered by love. Two existences interdimensionally together, and every moment we choose on this hero's journey of many challenges. What's their first rule? Don't panic. Second rule is let go. And then listen to that inner guidance that's always there. I think it's come to prayer. Let's take that into prayer. We know we're each on our own journey. Together we unite, but we're each on our own journey. God, we are willing to let go. We are willing to tap into that peace that passes all understanding. Letting go of appearances. Letting go of what it looks like. And simply trusting the one presence, the one power, guiding us every step of the way. On a need-to-know basis, we are willing to have patience, and we are willing to be surprised at the synchronistic, serendipitous, wondrous things that come our way as we relax and enter the flow of love. We say thank you, Father, Mother, God, in the nature of the Christ, and so it is. Amen.